The city streets you walk every day hold ancient secrets in their very bones. We will uncover 32 genius innovations hidden in plain sight, revealing how the modern world was built on ancient blueprints. You will discover how Roman concrete can heal its own cracks and why Mesopotamian toilets rivaled our own for sophistication. What mysterious flame could burn on water, and what intricate computer was lost for over 1,000 years. The past is not as distant as it seems, and its most brilliant ideas are still operating all around us. Are you ready to see history with new eyes? The Pantheon's dome in Rome is a silent marvel of engineering, a structure that has endured for nearly 2,000 years without a single steel beam to hold it up. Its secret is not just in its design, but in the very stone from which it is made. Roman concrete was a material so advanced that our modern versions struggle to compete. While our concrete crumbles and cracks over decades, theirs grew stronger with age. The Romans achieved this by mixing their concrete with a special ingredient, volcanic ash from the region of Pozzuoli. When combined with lime and seawater, this ash triggered a remarkable chemical process. As tiny fractures begin to form, water seeping into these hairline cracks reacts with the volcanic material, forming new crystalline structures that literally glue the concrete back together. It is a living material, one that can heal its own wounds. Scientists today are in a race to decode this ancient formula, hoping to create self-mending roads and bridges that would drastically reduce maintenance and waste. This is not a forgotten technology, but a lost one, a testament to a level of material science we are only just beginning to reclaim. The Romans built for eternity, and in the silent, enduring strength of their concrete, we find a blueprint for a more resilient future. While the Romans were mastering stone, another civilization was perfecting a different kind of comfort, one that would not become common again for millennia. Deep within the mud-brick ruins of the Mesopotamian city of Eshnauna, archaeologists uncovered a luxury that seems startlingly modern. In homes dating back to around 2000 BC, they found terracotta bowls connected to a network of baked clay pipes. This was not a simple pit, but the world's first known flush toilet. A person would sit on the terracotta seat, and with a pour of water from a container, gravity would pull the waste through the pipes and into a covered sewer channel that ran beneath the city streets. This was not a one-off experiment, but part of a sophisticated urban sanitation system, a clear sign that the people of Eshnauna understood the vital link between cleanliness and public health. They had created a society that valued comfort and hygiene, cornerstones we associate with modern civilization. The basic principles of their design, using gravity and water flow to manage waste, are exactly the same physics that power the plumbing in your own home today. It is a humbling thought that the comfort we take for granted was a genius innovation lost for thousands of years, a quiet revolution in daily life hidden beneath the dust of ancient streets. Yet for all the genius of sanitation and concrete, ancient warfare produced its own terrifying marvels. Picture a dark sea at night, the wooden hulls of an enemy fleet closing in. Suddenly, a horrifying stream of liquid fire erupts from a Byzantine warship, arching across the water to engulf the invaders. This was Greek fire, a weapon so potent it could burn even on the surface of the sea, a sight that must have seemed like pure sorcery to those who faced it. For over 7 centuries, this secret weapon secured the naval dominance of the Byzantine Empire, a technological edge that kept their capital, Constantinople, safe from countless sieges. The exact formula is a secret lost to history, a state secret so closely guarded that it died with the empire itself. Historians and chemists have long speculated about its ingredients, proposing everything from liquid petroleum and quicklime to a mysterious form of naphtha. What we do know is the terrifying sophistication of its delivery. This was not simply fire in a jar. Byzantine engineers created pressurized siphons, bronze tubes mounted on their ships that could spray the volatile liquid over a shocking distance. These devices were the flamethrowers of the ancient world, a combination of advanced chemistry and mechanical engineering that would not be rivaled for 1,000 years. The true genius of Greek fire lies not just in its mysterious composition, but in its application. It was a psychological weapon as much as a physical one, creating an aura of invincibility. The very fact that we are still trying to unravel its mysteries today is a testament to the power of a single, lost innovation, a ghost of flame on the water that forever changed the course of naval combat. That same sea that carried Greek fire also held a deeper secret, one that would lie hidden on the ocean floor for 2,000 years. In the year 1901, sponge divers exploring a Roman shipwreck near the island of Antikythera brought up a lump of corroded bronze and wood, so encrusted it seemed like just another piece of sea rock. It was only years later, when the crust was carefully chipped away, that the true marvel was revealed. Inside was a complex clockwork of interlocking bronze gears, precisely cut and arranged in a system of stunning complexity. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, an ancient Greek analog computer dating back to around 100 BC. It was not a weapon of war, but a tool of pure science, a device that could predict the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets with breathtaking accuracy. By turning a hand crank, an operator could calculate astronomical positions years in advance, track the cycles of the Olympic Games, and even predict lunar and solar eclipses. This was not just a calendar, it was a dynamic model of the cosmos, a miniature universe made of bronze. The genius of its design lies in its intricate gear trains, some with teeth so fine they resemble the works of an 18th century Swiss watch. A single main drive wheel powered dozens of interlocking components, each representing a celestial body moving at its own unique pace. This level of mechanical sophistication simply should not have existed in the ancient world. It is a device that stands alone, a technological island in history. Its very existence forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about ancient science. How many other such marvels were lost to time, their secrets swallowed by the sea or melted down for scrap? The Antikythera Mechanism is a ghost from a forgotten age of invention, a silent witness to a level of genius we are only just beginning to measure. Far out at the edge of the empire, a tremor too faint for any human to feel was already traveling towards the capital. In 132 AD, the brilliant Chinese inventor Zhang Heng presented the court with a solution to this invisible threat, a device of both art and science that seemed to defy possibility. His seismoscope was a magnificent bronze urn encircled by 8 dragons, each holding a bronze ball in its jaws. Below them, 8 corresponding bronze toads sat with their mouths wide open. The beauty of the vessel, however, hid its true mechanical genius. Inside, an inverted pendulum was delicately balanced at the center. When seismic waves from a distant earthquake arrived, they would disturb this pendulum, causing it to swing and trigger a clever internal mechanism. A lever would tilt, dislodging a single bronze ball from one dragon's mouth. The ball would drop with a clang directly into the mouth of the toad below, clearly pointing in the direction of the quake's epicenter. This was not magic, it was precision engineering. Historical records tell of the device detecting an earthquake hundreds of miles away, long before any messengers could arrive with the news. The court officials, who had felt nothing, were initially skeptical until confirmation came days later from the ravaged region. Zhang Heng's invention gave the empire a crucial head start, allowing aid and troops to be dispatched to the precise area days faster than would have been otherwise possible. It represented a fundamental shift in thinking, a move from passive suffering to active prediction. The genius was in making the invisible visible, translating the subtle language of the earth into a clear, actionable signal. In an age without electronic sensors or satellite data, this beautiful bronze vessel stood as a silent guardian, its jaws poised to speak a warning from the shifting ground itself. While the Chinese listened for tremors in the earth, another civilization was mastering the art of drawing water from it. Across the vast, sun-scorched plateaus of ancient Persia, survival depended on a single, precious resource. The solution they devised was not a towering aqueduct, but something far more ingenious and hidden from view. They created the Qanat, a network of underground tunnels that acted like veins, carrying the lifeblood of water from mountain aquifers deep into the heart of the desert. The brilliance of the Qanat lies in its elegant simplicity and profound understanding of nature. It began with a mother well, dug deep into the foothills until it struck a water-bearing layer of rock. From there, builders would tunnel backwards, carving a gently sloping channel just large enough for a person to move through, all the way to the arid plains where the water was needed. The most critical part of the entire operation was the slope. It had to be just right, a gradient so precise it seems impossible without modern tools. Too steep and the water would flow too fast, eroding the tunnel walls. Too shallow, and the water would stagnate and fail to move at all. This was achieved through an ancient form of surveying that used simple sighting poles and water levels, a testament to a deep, practical knowledge of geometry and physics. Why go to all this trouble to bury a water channel? The answer lies in the brutal desert sun. By flowing underground, the water was protected from evaporation, a constant thief in dry climates. It arrived at its destination cool, clean, and in volumes that could transform a barren landscape into a lush garden. A single Qanat could stretch for dozens of miles, and its construction was a massive communal effort, often taking generations to complete. Vertical access shafts were dug every 100 feet or so, not only for removing excavated material, but also for providing life-giving air to the workers below. These shafts left a telltale pattern on the surface, a line of circular depressions like a string of pearls leading from the mountains to the city. This hidden infrastructure allowed entire cities to rise in the desert, creating oases of agriculture and civilization where none should have existed. The true testament to its genius is that thousands of these ancient systems are still in use today across Iran and the wider region. They have been quietly sustaining communities for over 3,000 years, a timeless, self-sustaining technology hidden in plain sight beneath the sand. Those hidden veins of water beneath the Persian desert found their grand, open-air counterpart in the soaring stone arches of Rome. While the Qanat was a masterpiece of concealment, the Roman aqueduct was a triumphant declaration of power over nature, a visible spine of civilization stretching across the landscape. We often focus on the majestic arcades that stride through valleys, but the true engineering marvel was far more subtle. It was the relentless, invisible pull of gravity. From a distant spring in the hills, engineers would design a channel with a perfectly calculated downward slope, a gradient so gentle it often amounted to a drop of just a few inches every 100 feet. Maintaining this precise angle over dozens of miles, through hills and across plains, required a level of surveying that borders on the supernatural. They used simple tools like the chorobates, a long, water-leveled sighting board, to achieve an accuracy that would challenge even modern engineers without their laser levels and GPS. This gravity-fed network was the lifeblood of the city, delivering a constant flow of fresh water to public baths, bustling fountains, and even private homes of the wealthy. The water did not just arrive, it was managed. Before entering the city, it would flow through massive settling tanks where impurities would sink to the bottom, a primitive but effective form of water treatment. From there, a complex web of distribution pipes, often made from lead, carried the water to its final destinations. We now know the tragic health consequences of lead piping, a dark side to their ingenuity, but the underlying system itself was a work of genius. The aqueducts created a society where cleanliness and public health were woven into the urban fabric. The constant flow from street fountains provided drinking water for all, while the public baths served as social hubs. This was not merely a utility, it was the foundation of urban life on an unprecedented scale. The principles they established, from the gravity-fed flow to the central distribution network, are the direct ancestors of every modern municipal water system that brings clean water to your tap today. We built our world upon their blueprints, a testament to a vision that saw water not just as a resource, but as the very essence of a civilized life. The same mastery of water that filled Roman aqueducts was harnessed for an even more staggering purpose along the banks of the Nile. Here, the ancient Egyptians performed what seems like an impossible magic trick, moving mountains of solid stone across the water. Their tools were not just chisels and hammers, but a profound understanding of the river itself. To quarry a single obelisk, workers would first carve deep trenches around a massive block of red granite, a stone so hard it can blunt modern steel tools. They would then use wooden wedges soaked with water until they expanded with tremendous force to crack the monolith free from the bedrock. This raw block, often weighing over 300 tons, was then shaped and polished with an almost impossible precision, its surfaces smoothed and its edges sharpened, all with stone and copper tools. But the true test of genius was yet to come. How do you move a skyscraper of stone? The Egyptians turned the Nile into their conveyor belt. They would dig canals right up to the base of the quarry, then build a massive barge from papyrus reeds and wood around the grounded obelisk itself. By carefully controlling the water flow into the canal, they would float this colossal vessel, using the river's own buoyancy to lift a weight that would crush any modern truck. The journey downstream was a monumental feat of logistics, a slow, careful procession of tugboats and coordinated labor, ensuring the precious cargo never capsized. Yet the most heart-stopping moment was still ahead. Imagine the scene at the temple site, with that immense stone needle lying horizontal on its barge. How did they raise it without a single crane or steel cable? While the exact method remains a subject of debate, historians believe they used a massive earthen ramp built at a carefully calculated angle. Teams of workers would pull on ropes, slowly inching the base of the obelisk forward along the ramp until its own immense weight pivoted it into a vertical position, sliding perfectly into a waiting foundation stone. One wrong calculation, one slipped rope, and the monolith would shatter into a million pieces. These obelisks were not just symbols of pharaonic power, they were the ultimate expression of coordinated human effort and intellectual triumph. They stand today not merely as monuments, but as permanent proof that a civilization with a deep understanding of nature's laws could achieve the seemingly impossible. That same principle of a community working in concert, visible in the grand obelisks of Egypt, found its most profound expression in an entire city built for the common good. The sprawling ruins of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, rising from the plains of the Indus Valley around 2500 BC, reveal a civilization that mastered the art of urban living on a scale the world had never seen. These were not chaotic, organically grown settlements. They were meticulously planned metropolises, laid out in a near-perfect grid pattern of wide, straight streets that divided the city into orderly blocks. This was not for aesthetic appeal alone. It was the foundation of a revolutionary social idea that a city should function logically and hygienically for all its inhabitants. The true genius, however, lies not in what was above the ground, but what was hidden beneath it. Running parallel to those straight streets was the world's first comprehensive urban sanitation system. Almost every house had its own private bathroom and toilet, with waste channels built into the walls that connected to a network of covered, brick-lined drains that coursed beneath the main avenues. These were not open sewers, they were carefully engineered tunnels, complete with inspection points and manholes, allowing for maintenance and ensuring the city remained clean. The planning was so advanced that it even accounted for domestic wastewater, with chutes from household sinks guiding grey water into the same subterranean network. This obsession with public health extended to water supply, with many homes boasting their own private, brick-lined wells, ensuring a safe and convenient source of fresh water. Such a system implies a remarkable level of social organization. The uniformity of the fired bricks used throughout the cities, all made to a standardized ratio, points to a central authority capable of enforcing building codes and quality control. The presence of massive, raised granaries near the city center suggests a form of civic management that could store surplus grain, perhaps to feed laborers or to weather years of poor harvests. And then there is the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, a large, watertight public pool that likely served a ritual purpose, highlighting the importance of communal cleanliness and social gathering. This was a blueprint for civilization that balanced private comfort with public welfare, a model of urban planning so effective that it would not be rivaled in many parts of the world for thousands of years. We are only now, in our modern struggles with urban sprawl and infrastructure decay, fully appreciating the foresight of these anonymous planners, whose hidden drains and straight streets laid the quiet, enduring foundation for what we call a livable city. Yet even the most organized city cannot account for every discovery. In a museum basement in Baghdad sits a simple clay jar that quietly challenges our entire understanding of ancient science. It looks unremarkable, a small vase about the size of a fist, but its contents are anything but ordinary. Inside, a copper cylinder was carefully soldered with a 60-40 lead tin alloy, and within that cylinder, an iron rod was suspended, completely isolated from the copper by an asphalt plug. If this jar was filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, it would cease to be a mere pot. It would become a battery, dated to the Parthian or Sasanian period, around 2,000 years ago. This artifact and others like it are known as the Baghdad batteries. When reconstructed by modern experimenters, such a cell can produce a small but measurable electric current, around 1 volt of electricity. The effect is not powerful, but its implications are staggering. What possible use could an ancient civilization have for a trickle of electricity? The most compelling theory points to electroplating. Artisans could have linked several of these cells together to create a sufficient charge to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto a cheaper metal object, a process that would explain the exquisite, uniform gilding found on some artifacts from the region that has long puzzled historians. Another possibility lies in the realm of medicine, where the mild shock could have been used for therapeutic or numbing purposes, a primitive form of electrotherapy. The true purpose may never be known for certain, as no written records describe its use, but the object itself is a silent revolution, For centuries, we credited Alessandro Volta with inventing the first battery in the 18th century. This humble clay jar suggests the spark of electrical knowledge was not a sudden invention, but a rediscovery. It forces us to ask what other flickers of genius have been extinguished by time, their secrets waiting in plain sight for us to notice. High on a mountain ridge, the stone walls of Machu Picchu seem to grow directly from the bedrock, a seamless fusion of human craft and natural stone. These are not merely ruins, they are living structures, having endured countless earthquakes in one of the most seismically active regions on Earth. Their secret lies in the absence of mortar. The Inca stonemasons did not glue their blocks together, they engineered them to move. Using only stone hammers and bronze tools, they perfected a technique known as ashlar masonry, carving irregular, polygonal stones that fit together like an immense, three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. Each block was uniquely shaped, its angles and facets painstakingly abraded until it pressed perfectly against its neighbors. The result was a wall where every stone was locked in place by the intricate geometry of the stones surrounding it. This was not just about precision, it was about intelligent flexibility. When an earthquake strikes, the ground does not shake uniformly, it writhes and jolts. A rigid, mortared wall would crack under the strain, its brittle bonds failing. But an Inca wall is designed to dance. The interlocking stones allow the entire structure to sway and settle, to tremble and shift as a single, cohesive unit. The energy of the quake is dissipated through countless tiny movements and friction points between the stones, preventing any single point of catastrophic failure. Once the shaking stops, the stones simply settle back into a new, equally stable configuration. This is ancient anti-seismic engineering at its most brilliant. Modern engineers study these walls not as historical curiosities, but as master classes in resilience. They are hidden safety features carved in granite, a timeless lesson in building with nature instead of against it, allowing our creations to bend so they do not have to break. While the ancient world mastered the art of keeping cities clean and structures standing, it also pioneered the very definition of comfort within the home. In the cold marble halls of a Roman villa or the sacred spaces of the great temple of Ephesus, a quiet revolution in climate control was taking place, hidden beneath the feet of its occupants. This was the Hypocaust system, the ancient world's answer to central heating. The principle was one of elegant efficiency. A wood-burning furnace, called a prefurnium, was stoked continuously by servants in a room separate from the main living areas. This furnace did not simply heat the air, it channeled its energy. The floor of the room above was raised on a grid of short, sturdy brick pillars, creating a sealed, hollow space. The intense heat and hot gases from the furnace were forced to flow through this underground chamber, warming the entire floor slab above. But the genius did not stop at the floor. The system was often integrated with hollow box tiles built into the walls, creating flues that would draw the hot air upwards, warming the walls themselves before it finally escaped through vents in the roof. The result was a form of radiant heating that gently and evenly warmed the entire space from the floor to the ceiling. This was not a stuffy, forced air heat, but a pervasive, luxurious warmth that emanated from the very surfaces of the room. In wealthy Roman homes, this technology made possible sprawling bath complexes with heated pools and warm changing rooms, a testament to a society that valued daily comfort and leisure. The energy required to maintain such a system was immense, a clear marker of wealth and status, yet the underlying science was sound. Today, we are rediscovering this ancient wisdom. Modern radiant floor heating systems operate on the exact same principle, pumping heated water through pipes embedded in a concrete slab. It is one of the most energy-efficient ways to heat a space, as the large thermal mass of the floor retains heat for long periods and warms objects and people directly, rather than just the air. The Hypocaust was not merely a luxury, it was a brilliant application of physics, a 2,000-year-old blueprint for efficient living that we are only now fully appreciating again. That same spark of ingenuity that produced the Baghdad battery was also at work in the Mesopotamian artisan's workshop, transforming earth and fire into something entirely new. Long before glass was used for windows, it was a material of high art and mystery. Around 1500 BC, these craftsmen perfected a technique known as core forming, a process that required both chemical genius and a steady hand. They would start by shaping a core of clay and dung into the form of the vessel they desired, attaching it to a metal rod. Then they would dip this hot, sandy core into a crucible of molten glass, a shimmering liquid made from silica sand and soda ash. As the glass cooled, the artisan would roll it on a stone slab to smooth the surface, often dragging combs through the soft material to create delicate, wavy patterns. The final and perhaps most brilliant step was to add color. By introducing minute amounts of metal oxides into the mix, they could control the glass's very essence. Cobalt produced a deep, celestial blue, copper a vibrant turquoise, and manganese a rich, royal purple. Once the vessel was cool, the inner clay core was painstakingly scraped out, leaving behind a hollow, brilliantly colored container. These were not just beads and bottles, they were alchemical marvels, turning common sand into objects of breathtaking beauty and durability. The knowledge of this craft spread along trade routes from Mesopotamia to Egypt and eventually to Rome, evolving over centuries. Every time you look through a clear window pane or take a drink from a glass, you are participating in a tradition born in those ancient fires. The Mesopotamians did not just make glass, they gave us the very idea of it, a transparent legacy hidden in plain sight in every fragment of our modern world. The same engineering genius that raised aqueducts and heated villas also paved the way for an empire to move. All roads truly did lead to Rome, a statement of literal, physical fact made possible by a network of highways built to outlast time itself. Their construction was a masterclass in foresight. A Roman surveyor would first mark the straightest possible line, defying hills and valleys with a stubborn determination we still see etched across the European landscape. Then the real work began. They did not simply lay down a surface, they built a foundation. A deep trench was dug and filled with a layer of large stones, the statumen. On top of this, a thick bed of rubble and lime, the rudis, was packed down. Next came the nucleus, a finer mix of gravel and cement, and finally, the crowning glory, the summum dorsum. This top layer was paved with massive, carefully fitted polygonal blocks of hard volcanic stone, creating a surface that was not only smooth but cambered, curving gently from the center to the edges. This subtle slope was the final stroke of genius, allowing rainwater to drain quickly into roadside ditches, preventing the erosion that would have destroyed a lesser road. The result was a structure so durable that many of these ancient roads are not just archaeological sites, they are the very foundation of modern European highways, their 2,000-year-old routes still carrying the traffic of today. This was the hidden information superhighway of the ancient world. Legions could march from one end of the empire to the other at a speed that would not be surpassed until the 19th century. Official messengers, the Roman cursus publicus, could relay information with stunning efficiency, binding distant provinces to the capital. Merchants could transport goods with a reliability never before known, their wagons rolling on a surface that was dependable in all weather. The Roman road was more than just stone, it was a physical internet, a network that transmitted soldiers, news, and commerce with a speed that shaped the very consciousness of a continent. It unified language, law, and culture across millions of square miles, creating a common ground for a dizzying array of peoples. The geography of modern Europe, with its major cities and trade corridors, was permanently molded by these ancient paths, a hidden infrastructure we still travel every single day. While empires were built on stone and concrete, the most enduring revolution was quietly taking shape from far humbler materials. In the year 105 AD, a court official named Kai Lun presented the Chinese emperor with a substance that would outlast every dynasty, a material born from mulberry bark, old rags, and fishing nets. This was paper. Before its invention, knowledge was a burden. In China, important texts were brushed onto heavy, clattering bamboo slips or exorbitantly expensive silk scrolls. In the West, scribes used brittle papyrus or laboriously scraped animal skins. Writing was confined to the elite, a luxury of the powerful and the priestly. Kai Lun's process broke this monopoly by boiling plant fibers into a pulpy slurry, then straining and pressing the mixture into thin, uniform sheets. He created a surface that was strong, lightweight, and incredibly cheap to produce. This was not merely an improvement, it was a paradigm shift. For the first time, knowledge could be easily recorded, duplicated, and transported on a mass scale. Bureaucracy became more efficient, poetry could flourish, and ideas could travel in a saddlebag. The secret of its making was a state secret for centuries, but like all great ideas, it could not be contained. The knowledge traveled slowly west along the Silk Road, reaching the Islamic world and then, centuries later, Europe. Its arrival there was the essential precondition for Gutenberg's printing press. You cannot have a printing revolution without something cheap and abundant to print upon. Every book that educates you, every map that guides you, every note you jot down exists because of this ancient alchemy that transformed rags into a vessel for the human mind. It is the ultimate hidden foundation, the silent, fibrous bedrock beneath our global civilization of words. That same ingenuity that moved mountains of stone along the Nile also solved a quieter, daily challenge on its banks. The Egyptian Shaduf transformed the back-breaking labor of irrigation into a simple, rhythmic motion. Picture a long wooden pole balanced on an upright frame like a seesaw. From one end hung a leather bucket while the other carried a heavy counterweight of mud or stone. A farmer would pull the bucket down into the river, letting it fill with water. Then, with a gentle push, the counterweight would do most of the work, effortlessly lifting the full bucket high into the air, where it could be swung over and emptied into an irrigation canal. This was the power of the lever, a basic principle of physics mastered thousands of years before it was formally defined. Tomb paintings from as early as 2000 BC show this device in action, a clear sign of its vital role in Egyptian society. Its impact was revolutionary. Before the Shaduf, farmers were confined to the land immediately beside the river. With it, they could lift water to fields on higher ground, expanding the fertile green ribbon of the Nile Valley. This single tool supercharged agricultural output, allowing the population to grow and the culture to flourish. It turned sporadic farming into reliable, large-scale food production, fueling the surplus that built the pyramids and sustained the pharaohs. The true mark of its genius is its timelessness. You can still see nearly identical devices in use today in rural parts of Asia and Africa, a testament to a design so perfect it has never needed improvement. It is a hidden engine of civilization, a simple pivot point that lifted not just water but humanity itself toward a more abundant future. While the Egyptians mastered lifting water and the Romans channeled it, another civilization learned to harness the very air they breathed. In the scorching heart of ancient Persia, where summer temperatures could be unbearable, architects engineered a way to make the desert itself breathe cool relief. They built the Baghdad or Windcatcher, a towering structure that rose from the rooftops like a sentinel for comfort. This was not a simple chimney. It was a sophisticated air capture system designed with an almost intuitive understanding of fluid dynamics. Its top was open on multiple sides, segmented into vertical shafts that could catch the slightest breeze from any direction. No matter which way the wind was blowing, at least one of these openings would face into it, trapping the moving air and forcing it downward. The genius, however, did not stop at simply catching the wind. As the air was funneled into the building, it was often directed over a small indoor pool of water or through a subterranean canal. This is where the true magic of evaporative cooling took effect. The dry, hot air would absorb moisture from the water's surface, a process that naturally draws heat energy from the surrounding environment. The breeze was transformed, arriving in the living quarters as a cool, refreshing draft. Meanwhile, the Windcatcher also acted as an exhaust. The same design that pulled cool air in also created a pressure differential that sucked the hot, stale air from inside the building up and out through a separate shaft. This created a continuous, self-sustaining circulation, a natural air conditioning system that required no moving parts and consumed zero energy. Entire cities in the Persian desert were built around this technology, with rows of these elegant towers defining the skyline. They cooled homes, public buildings, and even massive ice storage chambers, allowing communities to preserve ice gathered in the winter for use in the blistering summer months. In a world increasingly concerned with energy consumption, the ancient Windcatcher offers a profound lesson. Modern sustainable architects are now looking back to this passive design, integrating its principles into contemporary buildings to drastically reduce the need for power-hungry air conditioning. It stands as a quiet monument to the idea that sometimes the most advanced solution is not to fight nature, but to listen to it and build in harmony with its rhythms. That simple, elegant curve of stone is a deceptively powerful shape. Civilizations before Rome knew the arch, but they treated it as a decorative feature or a minor structural element. The Romans saw its true potential as a skeleton, a fundamental building block they could replicate endlessly to build an empire. Their genius was not in inventing the arch, but in industrializing it, standardizing its construction with wooden frameworks that allowed them to erect them with breathtaking speed and consistency. The true magic of the Roman arch lies in its physics. Unlike a simple stone lintel, which can crack under its own weight across a wide span, the arch is a master of redirection. The wedge-shaped stones, called voussoirs, press against each other, channeling the immense weight above them outward and downward along the curve, toward the heavy piers or walls on either side. The very force that would crush a flat beam is transformed into a source of strength, locking the entire structure in a state of perfect, balanced compression. This single principle allowed Roman engineers to create the vast, open spans of the Colosseum, where tens of thousands of spectators could gather, and the soaring arcades of aqueducts that strode across valleys. But they did not stop there. By pushing the arch forward through space, they created the barrel vault, a continuous, tunnel-like ceiling. Where two barrel vaults intersected at a right angle, they formed the even stronger groin vault, a webbed ceiling that concentrated the weight onto just 4 corner pillars. Suddenly, the interiors of buildings were set free. The massive, windowless walls that were once necessary to hold up a roof were no longer needed. In their place rose the vast, luminous spaces of the baths of Caracalla or the grand public basilicas, interiors filled with light and movement on a scale the world had never seen. This was the birth of truly monumental architecture, defined not by solid mass but by open space. That same structural skeleton is hidden within the very bones of your world. Every stone bridge in a European city, every grand train station with its arched glass roof, and every subway tunnel boring through the earth beneath your feet is a direct descendant of this Roman innovation. We still build with their invisible logic, using arches of steel and concrete to create the open, airy spaces that define our modern life. The arch was their gift, a simple curve that taught us how to build not just with stone, but with space itself. While Roman arches defined the skyline of the West, a different kind of mastery was being forged in the furnaces of ancient India. Here, metallurgists in the region of Hyderabad achieved a feat of material science that would become the stuff of legend. They created Wootz steel, a high-carbon alloy renowned for its otherworldly beauty and lethal performance. Its surface was etched with a shimmering, watery pattern, a signature that belied a crystalline structure of almost magical complexity. This was not merely good steel, it was the raw material for the mythic Damascus swords, blades so sharp and resilient they were said to be able to slice a falling silk scarf in midair and withstand the shock of shattering lesser weapons. The secret lay in a crucible process of breathtaking control. Iron was melted together with carbon-rich materials inside a sealed clay pot, then cooled with a painstaking slowness that took days. This was not a random quenching, it was a carefully orchestrated thermal dance. The result was a steel ingot laced with a nanostructure of carbon nanotubes and carbide wires, a microscopic reinforcement grid that ran through the metal like a hidden skeleton. When a master swordsmith forged a blade from this ingot, the hammering and folding did not just shape the metal, it aligned this internal architecture, creating an edge that was both incredibly hard and astonishingly flexible, a combination modern metallurgy still struggles to perfectly replicate. For centuries, the secret of Wootz was lost, its method fading into obscurity. It is only with the advent of electron microscopes that we have been able to peer into its atomic heart and finally understand the genius we had forgotten. The watery pattern on the surface was a direct map of this hidden nanoengineering, a ghostly signature of an ancient technology that manipulated matter on a scale we thought was beyond their vision. That same mastery of transformation, turning simple materials into objects of immense value, found its most vivid expression not in stone or metal, but in color. The Phoenicians built an empire on a liquid treasure extracted from the most unlikely of sources, the humble murex sea snail. To produce a single gram of Tyrian purple dye required the meticulous harvesting of thousands of these mollusks. Workers would crack open the shells to access a small gland that produced a colorless mucus. When this secretion was exposed to sunlight and air, it underwent a miraculous chemical change, shifting through a spectrum of colors before settling into a deep, rich, and fast purple. This was not a simple stain. The process to fix the color to wool or silk was a complex alchemy, a carefully guarded secret involving vats, precise temperatures, and specific mordants to ensure the dye would not fade. The smell of the production centers was said to be horrific, a stench of rotting shellfish that clung to the coastal cities, but the result was a color so potent it became synonymous with power itself. Because the process was so phenomenally labor-intensive, a single pound of dyed wool could cost more than what most people earned in a year. This scarcity created its own economy. The Phoenicians, master sailors and merchants, established a complete monopoly on the production and trade of this precious commodity, weaving a network of commerce that stretched from the Levant to the Pillars of Hercules. They became the purple barons of the ancient world, their wealth literally woven from the sea. To wear a garment of this hue was to broadcast your status in the most unambiguous terms. Roman emperors later decreed that only they could wear a full toga of Tyrian purple, solidifying its status as the exclusive property of the throne. That legacy is not lost to history. It is hidden in our very language and our perception. The term royal purple is a direct echo of this ancient innovation, a color that still whispers of majesty, luxury, and a power so absolute it could command a fortune from a drop of snail's blood. Yet that same earth that yielded its iron also demanded to be broken. The Mesopotamian plow was not a tool of luxury, but one of survival, a wooden arm that leveraged humanity's first great partnership with animals. Before its invention around 3000 BC, farming was a brutal, back-breaking struggle. Farmers had to scratch at the softest soils near the rivers with simple digging sticks, a method that could barely feed a family, let alone a growing community. But by harnessing the raw strength of the ox and fitting a wooden frame with a hardened copper or bronze tip, they unlocked the fertile plains. This was the first time power was applied to soil, a simple machine that multiplied human effort 100-fold. An ox-drawn plow could cut a deep, clean furrow through hard, sun-baked earth, turning soil that had been unreachable for cultivation. This was not just about working harder, it was about working smarter. The plow allowed a single farmer to prepare vast tracts of land in a fraction of the time, transforming sporadic gardening into systematic, large-scale agriculture. The impact was nothing short of a social earthquake. For the first time in human history, societies could reliably produce more food than they immediately needed. This was the birth of the surplus. A surplus meant that not everyone had to farm. It freed people to become artisans, priests, soldiers, and scribes. It allowed for the specialization of labor that is the very bedrock of complex civilization. Food could be stored for lean years, traded for other goods, or used to feed the armies of the first city-states. The plow did not just till the earth, it tilled the very fabric of society, creating the conditions for cities like and Uruk to rise from the mud. Its genius is hidden in its timeless design, a form so effective it remained the global standard for fieldwork until the Industrial Revolution. Every modern tractor that rolls across a field today is the direct, thundering descendant of that first wooden blade cutting a furrow 5,000 years ago, a quiet innovation that truly planted the seeds of the world we know. Rising from the island of Pharos, a tower of white marble once cast its protective gaze across the Mediterranean. The Lighthouse of Alexandria did not simply stand, it performed a vital function, its flame a constant, reassuring star for every vessel navigating the treacherous coast of Egypt. For centuries, this structure guided ships into one of the ancient world's busiest harbors, a feat of engineering that secured its place among the legendary Seven Wonders. Its brilliance was twofold. By day, a massive, polished bronze mirror harnessed the sun, reflecting a powerful beam visible for miles out to sea. As dusk fell, attendants would stoke a colossal furnace at its summit, transforming that same mirror to project the fire's light, magnifying it into a beacon that cut through the darkness and the fog. This was more than a tower with a fire, it was an integrated optical system, a tool that actively managed light itself to serve human need. Its iconic design, a square base giving way to an octagonal midsection and a cylindrical top, was not merely for show. This triple-tiered architecture provided immense stability against the relentless wind and waves, a graduated form that allowed the massive structure to sway without shattering. It stood over 100 meters tall, a skyscraper of the ancient world, and its very silhouette became the blueprint for every lighthouse that followed. From the storm-lashed coasts of Cornwall to the great harbors of the New World, the form of the lighthouse is a direct echo of that first great sentinel. It was a critical piece of civic infrastructure that safeguarded the flow of goods, ideas, and people, making the entire Mediterranean a smaller, safer, and more connected world. Every blinking light that now guides a modern tanker or a humble fishing boat to safety owes its existence to that original genius on the Faroes, a promise of safe harbor carved in stone and fire. High on the Andean mountainsides, the very slopes that should have been barren were transformed into a cascading green tapestry of plenty. The Incas and the civilizations before them looked at these vertiginous gradients and saw not an obstacle but an opportunity. They carved the mountains into a giant staircase, building vast stepped terraces that created flat, fertile land where none existed before. This was not mere landscaping, it was a complete re-engineering of the landscape for survival. Each stone retaining wall did more than just hold back the earth. It fought a constant battle against erosion. On a steep, untreated slope, every heavy rain would wash the thin, vital topsoil down into the valleys, leaving only barren rock behind. The terraces stopped this theft in its tracks. The walls acted as a series of checkpoints, catching the soil and water, allowing the life-giving nutrients to soak in rather than run off. But the genius of the system ran deeper than the walls themselves. Interconnected by a web of stone-lined canals and aqueducts, these terraces became a masterclass in water management. Water was carefully channeled from mountain springs and glacial melt, flowing from one level to the next with a gentle, controlled precision. This ensured that every field, even those far from the source, received its share of moisture, while also preventing the destructive force of uncontrolled runoff. Perhaps the most brilliant effect was the creation of multiple microclimates. The terraces facing the sun captured its warmth, while those in the shadow remained cooler. This allowed farmers to cultivate a stunning diversity of crops, dozens of varieties of potatoes, maize, quinoa, and more, all on the same mountainside, a living insurance policy against the failure of any single harvest. This ancient innovation is not a relic. Today, as we grapple with soil degradation and water scarcity, agricultural scientists are returning to these principles. The contour farming and soil conservation methods perfected on these Andean slopes are now fundamental to sustainable agriculture worldwide, proving that some of the best solutions for our future are already written into the land, if only we know how to read them. The same water that flowed through aqueducts and heated hypocausts also served a far more humble, yet equally vital, purpose in the heart of Roman society. Step into one of the city's many public latrines, and you would find an experience that challenges our modern notions of privacy and public health. These were not dark, foul-smelling holes in the ground, but often well-appointed rooms with marble seats arranged in a sociable circle or row. A constant stream of water flowed in a channel beneath these seats, fed directly from the aqueducts, carrying waste away immediately. This was not a solitary activity, but a communal one where citizens would gather and converse, a testament to a culture that saw public health as a shared civic duty. All of these facilities ultimately connected to the city's monumental sewer, the Cloaca Maxima, or Great Sewer. This was not a hidden, shameful pipe, but an engineering marvel so revered it was originally a sacred, covered canal. Its vast tunnels, large enough for a man to walk through, channeled the filth of the entire city directly into the Tiber River. This entire system, from the public baths that promoted cleanliness to the latrines that managed waste, formed an integrated approach to urban health that was unprecedented in the ancient world. The genius was in its scale and its municipal management. For the first time, a city government took direct responsibility for the sanitation of its entire population, rich and poor alike. This network of clean water in and wastewater out is the unspoken foundation of every modern metropolis. the very same principle of a centralized, flowing sewer system that operates beneath your city streets, managed by your local government, is a direct inheritance from Rome. We have simply hidden their open, marble benches behind private doors, but the water flowing beneath them still follows the same ancient, logical path to the sea. That quiet revolution in the field, turning soil with the plow, demanded an equally brilliant answer for planting. While the ox pulled the blade, the ancient Chinese were perfecting what happened next. They engineered a multi-tube seed drill, a device that transformed the haphazard act of sowing into a science of precision. Before this invention, most farmers practiced broadcast sowing, walking across a field and scattering seeds by hand. It was a wasteful endeavor. Seeds lay exposed on the surface, vulnerable to being eaten by birds or washed away by rain. Those that did germinate often sprouted in crowded clumps, competing fiercely for sunlight and nutrients, resulting in stunted plants and meager harvests. The Chinese seed drill solved all of this with elegant mechanical intelligence. A hopper filled with seed was mounted on a wooden frame, with several tubes leading down to carefully spaced, sharp-edged furrow openers. As an ox pulled the drill forward, a small wheel or mechanism would rhythmically tap the hopper, releasing a measured amount of seed down each tube. These seeds would drop into the narrow furrows being cut by the openers at that very moment, and a trailing piece of wood would then cover them with just the right amount of soil. This single, continuous action achieved three things perfectly. It buried the seed at a uniform depth, safe from predators and the elements. It spaced the seeds evenly, giving every single plant its own dedicated space to thrive without competition. And it used far less seed, ending the terrible waste of the broadcast method. This was a leap from guesswork to guaranteed results, a move that saved immense amounts of labor and precious resources while dramatically boosting crop yield. The principle is so sound that it has never been improved upon, only scaled. The massive computer-guided planters that crawl across modern farms, placing corn or soybean seeds with satellite-guided accuracy, are the direct descendants of that ox-drawn wooden frame. Every perfectly aligned row of crops you see from a car window is a silent tribute to an ancient innovation that taught us how to place potential directly into the earth, one precise seed at a time. Deep beneath the labyrinthine halls of the Palace of Knossos, a different kind of mystery was engineered into the very stone. While the legend of the Minotaur captured imaginations, the Minoans were mastering a more practical magic, a hidden network of terracotta pipes that gave the palace a heartbeat of clean and dirty water. Constructed around 2000 BC, this was not a simple gutter system. It was an integrated hydraulic circuit, a Bronze Age marvel of civil engineering. Fresh water was channeled from springs in the surrounding hills through a series of carefully laid pipes, bringing a reliable supply directly into the heart of the complex. But the true genius was in what happened next. That same water, after being used, was not left to stagnate. A separate, sloped network of drain pipes, perfectly fitted and sealed, ran beneath the floors and within the walls, carrying wastewater away from bathrooms and kitchens. This system even included settling tanks, where heavier solids would drop out of the water before it continued its journey, a primitive but effective form of filtration. They managed not just sewage but stormwater too, with open stone conduits designed to handle the deluge of Mediterranean rains, preventing the palace courtyards from flooding. The entire design reveals a society that understood the direct connection between managed water and public health on a grand, urban scale. In a time we often picture as primitive, the rulers of Knossos enjoyed a level of sanitary infrastructure that would not be seen again in Europe for over 3,000 years. Every time you turn on a tap and watch the water spiral down the drain, You are witnessing the enduring legacy of this hidden Minoan blueprint, a silent promise of cleanliness carved into ancient clay. That dark, dramatic eyeliner framing the eyes of pharaohs was far more than a fashion statement. It was a sophisticated tool for survival in the harsh Egyptian environment. The iconic coal was meticulously prepared from a mineral called galena, a lead sulfide which was ground into a fine powder and mixed with other natural salts and oils. When applied, this dark paste served a brilliant trio of purposes. First, it reduced the sun's blinding glare reflecting off the desert sand, acting as a very early form of sunglasses to protect vision. Second, its distinct smell and composition worked as a potent fly repellent, keeping disease-carrying insects away from the sensitive corners of the eyes. And third, and perhaps most remarkably, it possessed powerful antibacterial properties that helped prevent common and potentially blinding eye infections, especially those spread by the very Nile waters that sustained their civilization. This was not an isolated case. The ancient Egyptians saw no firm boundary between the cosmetic and the medicinal. They created perfumed oils that moisturized the skin in the dry heat while also functioning as antiseptics. They used honey, a natural antibiotic, in salves for wounds and as a base for their skin creams. Their entire approach was holistic, viewing personal adornment and daily hygiene as integral parts of maintaining health. This philosophy is a hidden cornerstone of our modern world. Every time you apply a medicated lip balm, use a zinc-based sunscreen, or choose a moisturizer with salicylic acid, you are participating in a tradition they perfected. The true genius of their coal is not in its ingredients, which we now know can be toxic with long-term use, but in its underlying principle, the idea that a daily ritual could be both beautifying and profoundly protective, a quiet innovation in preventative care that still shapes our most basic health aids today. The desert city of Petra rises from the cliffs as a monument not just to art, but to survival against impossible odds. In this sun-scorched landscape, where rain might fall only a few days each year, the Nabateans performed a kind of alchemy, turning barren rock into a thriving metropolis. Their secret was a hidden web of water control so comprehensive it captured every fleeting drop. They did not just dig wells, they engineered the entire terrain. They carved the very cliff faces into intricate channels and gutters, designed to intercept the rare but violent downpours before the water could be lost to the thirsty ground. This precious resource was then funneled into a vast network of underground cisterns and massive, bell-shaped reservoirs, all lined with a special, waterproof cement that prevented seepage. Dams were strategically placed in narrow canyons to control flash floods and divert the torrent into their storage systems. This was not a passive hope for rain, it was an active, aggressive campaign to harvest it. The entire city functioned like a giant catchment basin, its architecture and infrastructure dedicated to capturing, storing, and distributing its single most valuable commodity. This hidden hydraulic genius allowed Petra to support a population of perhaps 30,000 people, complete with lush gardens and public fountains in the heart of a desert. Their civilization did not survive in spite of the environment, but because they learned to read it with an intimacy we have since forgotten. In a world where water scarcity is becoming a critical global issue, the silent, empty cisterns of Petra hold a profound lesson. They remind us that the path to resilience is not always about finding new sources, but about mastering the art of conservation, a lesson carved in stone and waiting for us to rediscover. The sleek, terrifying form of the trireme cut through the Aegean Sea like a blade, a vessel built not for endurance but for explosive power. Its name reveals its secret, 3 tiers of oarsmen stacked vertically along each side, creating a triple-layered engine of human muscle. This was not a casual rowing arrangement, it was a precisely choreographed machine. 170 oars plunged into the water in near-perfect unison, driven by the beat of a hortator's drum. This coordination allowed the trireme to achieve bursts of speed that could outrun any sailing ship of its day, reaching close to 10 knots for short, devastating sprints. Its agility was its greatest defense and its deadliest weapon, able to pivot on the spot and execute maneuvers that left heavier vessels wallowing in its wake. But speed alone was not the point. The entire ship was a delivery system for its primary armament, a massive, bronze-clad ram protruding from the prow. This was not a simple spike, it was a carefully engineered extension of the ship's keel, shaped to punch through an enemy's hull below the waterline. The goal was not to board and fight, but to sink the opponent with a single, shattering blow. To withstand the immense force of such a collision, the trireme's construction was a marvel of lightweight strength. Its hull was a shell of closely fitted planks, often from fir and pine, joined by intricate mortise and tenon joints, and reinforced with taut cables that ran the length of the ship, acting like a sprung bow to absorb impact. Every component, from the placement of the rowers to the angle of the ram, was calculated for one purpose: to project overwhelming force across the waves. This design philosophy became the hidden DNA of naval warfare for 1,000 years. The basic template of a fast, oar-driven galley with a reinforced ram defined combat in the Mediterranean from the battles of Salamis to the rise of Rome. It was the ancient equivalent of a stealth fighter, a platform built for a single, decisive strike, and its ghost still lingers in the speed and aggression we expect from our modern warships today. While Greek triremes mastered the sea, another civilization was mapping the silent ocean of the night sky. On the flat rooftops of Mesopotamian temples, Babylonian priests kept a relentless watch, their eyes fixed on the shimmering patterns above. Night after night, for centuries, they recorded the precise movements of stars and planets on thousands of clay tablets. This was not born of simple curiosity, but from a profound belief that the heavens were a divine text and that celestial events were omens foretelling the fate of kings and empires. A wandering planet, a sudden comet, or the slow dance of the moon could signal war, famine, or a ruler's death. This search for meaning in the stars, however, produced something far more enduring than prophecy. It gave birth to empirical science. Their meticulous, generation-spanning records created the first reliable data set of the cosmos. They identified repeating cycles, calculated the paths of planets with astonishing accuracy, and could predict lunar eclipses years in advance. Their greatest hidden innovation was a mathematical framework for the sky itself. They divided the band of the heavens through which the sun, moon, and planets travel into 12 equal sections, each 30 degrees wide, and populated them with the constellations we still recognize today. This was the creation of the zodiac, a celestial coordinate system that provided a consistent map for tracking time and motion. The names and symbols from the bull of Taurus to the lion of Leo are their direct legacy. The true genius of their work lies in the separation of the system from its original purpose. We may no longer look to the stars for omens about our king's health, but when an astronomer today plots a satellite's trajectory, or when you simply read your horoscope for fun, you are consulting a Babylonian blueprint. The clockwork of the universe they first documented is the very same cosmic machinery we still use to navigate our world and ponder our place within the infinite. That same precision which carved the arch and laid the road was also brought to the most intimate of human struggles, the fight for life itself. In the ashes of Pompeii and the ruins of Roman military forts, archaeologists have unearthed medical kits containing instruments of chilling familiarity. Here, laid out on a cloth after 2,000 years, are forceps for extracting arrowheads, finely balanced scalpels for making incisions, and intricate bone drills for relieving pressure on a fractured skull. The most startling of all is the vaginal speculum, a complex screw-operated device of bronze that looks almost identical to the one used in a modern gynecological exam. These were not crude implements, but highly specialized tools crafted from bronze, iron, and even steel, each designed for a specific and delicate task. Roman surgeons, drawing on knowledge from the Greek world and their own practical experience, performed operations that seem impossibly advanced. They could remove cataracts from the eye using a fine needle, a procedure requiring a steady hand and a deep understanding of the organ structure. They practiced trepanation, the careful drilling of a hole in the human skull, likely to treat head injuries or relieve debilitating migraines. This was not mere butchery, it was calculated intervention. The existence of such a sophisticated toolkit implies a world where human anatomy was studied, where specific ailments were met with specific, designed solutions. The genius is hidden in the very form of the tools, a legacy of ergonomic design that has survived the collapse of empires. The weight of a Roman scalpel is balanced in the hand exactly like a modern one, because the fundamental relationship between a surgeon's hand and the work it must do has not changed. These instruments established a physical standard, a baseline of what a surgical tool should be, that would be lost in the Dark Ages only to be painstakingly rediscovered centuries later. Every time a surgeon in a sterile operating room reaches for a forceps, they are closing a circle that was first drawn in ancient Rome, their work guided by the ghost of a design that understood the body's fragility and the healer's need for perfect control. While Roman surgeons perfected their delicate tools, an emperor in ancient China was navigating his world with a different kind of precision machine. The south-pointing chariot was a mechanical marvel, a complex carriage that defied the very idea of getting lost. At its summit, a carved figure stood poised, its outstretched arm perpetually indicating south no matter how the chariot twisted and turned along the winding road. This was not magic, and it had nothing to do with magnetism. Its secret was a brilliant system of gears hidden within the carriage, an analog computer that performed calculations with every rotation of the wheels. The core of its genius was a differential gear, a mechanism that would not appear in the West until the 19th century. As the chariot moved forward, its two wheels drove a set of interlocking gears. When the chariot traveled in a straight line, these gears moved in harmony. But the moment the chariot turned, the system came alive. The inside wheel would cover less distance than the outside wheel, and this difference in rotation was instantly calculated by the differential. The gears would automatically compensate for the turn, adjusting the figure on top through a series of clever linkages to keep it pointing in the original southern direction. This was mechanical feedback and automation in its purest form, a closed-loop system that corrected itself in real time. It was a masterpiece of mechanical intuition, a machine that could feel its own path and maintain its orientation. While it was often used in grand imperial processions to symbolize the emperor's unwavering moral compass, its potential for practical navigation in featureless terrain was immense. The south-pointing chariot represents a road not taken, a parallel path in the history of technology where complex gearing, not magnetism, solved the ancient human problem of direction. It stands as a quiet testament to a different kind of genius, one that found its way not with a lodestone, but with a perfect turning mind of bronze and wood. These 32 threads, when woven together, reveal a tapestry of human ingenuity far richer than we often imagine. We have been trained to see history as a straight line, a steady march from primitive to advanced, culminating in our own digital age. But this linear story collapses under the weight of these ancient marvels. The truth is far more fascinating. Civilizations like Rome, Mesopotamia, and the Indus Valley were not primitive, they were simply specialized in different directions. They poured their collective genius into the problems most immediate to their survival and ambition, creating self-healing concrete, city-wide sanitation, and analog computers with a sophistication that would vanish for 1,000 years. Their progress was not a relentless forward thrust, but a cycle of brilliant discovery, fragile preservation, and tragic loss. The recipe for Greek fire dies with the Byzantine Empire. The secret of Wootz steel fades from memory. The Antikythera Mechanism lies silent on the seafloor, its purpose forgotten. Knowledge was not a permanent acquisition, but a flickering flame that could be extinguished by war, social collapse, or simply the passage of time. This cyclical nature of innovation challenges our deepest modern bias, the idea that real technological advancement is measured in silicon chips and fiber optics. We have equated progress with the digital, but these ancient minds remind us that genius is not confined to a single domain. It can be as tangible as a Persian Windcatcher cooling a desert home without a single watt of electricity, or as elegant as the precise slope of a Roman aqueduct harnessing gravity itself. True advancement is any solution that profoundly and elegantly solves a human problem, whether that problem is quenching a city's thirst, healing a cracked monument, or simply finding your way home. The silent, enduring legacy of these 32 innovations is not just in the objects themselves, but in the perspective they offer, a humbling reminder that the blueprint for a resilient and ingenious future may have been drawn thousands of years ago, hidden in plain sight all along. From the self-healing concrete of Rome to the lost computers of ancient Greece, these 32 threads of genius reveal a past that defies our simple timelines. They are not frozen artifacts in a museum case, but living ideas woven into the very fabric of our world. The principles that cooled a Persian home with desert winds are being rediscovered by sustainable architects today. The same mechanical logic that kept a bronze hand pointing south is embedded in the differential of your car. Our modern infrastructure, from the sewers beneath your city to the roads you drive on, operates on ancient blueprints. This journey through hidden history reminds us that human ingenuity is not a linear march, but a constant, cyclical force. Brilliance flashes, is lost, and is found again, each generation building upon the fragments left behind. By looking back with clearer eyes, we do more than just admire the past. We find a deep well of inspiration for the future. The solutions to some of our most pressing challenges in sustainability, resilience, and design may have been quietly waiting for centuries, hidden in plain sight. So the next time you turn on a tap, glance at a lighthouse, or feel the warmth of a heated floor, remember the ancient minds that first unlocked these possibilities. Look more closely at the world around you, for you are likely standing right on top of an ancient marvel. We would love to hear which of these innovations amazed you the most. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to continue unraveling history's greatest mysteries with us.